Well, I did the DCCU, so it's only appropriate I do the MEU.
I love the chase and the hunt, and I set the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted, stay humble. Now wake up, it's time to look at the enemy. Look in the mirror and he is no friend to me.
Hello everybody and welcome back to Pitch This here on the MrEliMac YouTube channel. I am your host, MrEliMac, and a while ago I saw a comment that suggested that I do a version of the DC Extended Universe, but instead of it being DC Comics, I do Marvel instead. And that's not really been a topic that I've thought about a whole lot because that's something I never really truly wanted to do. However, after I saw that comment and I started thinking about it a bit more, I started to get a sliver of an idea of what to do if that were something that I did. So this is what this is going to be. This is what if the DCEU was the MEU. And it's going to be a little different than I think what people are expecting it to be, especially if you watch my DCCU videos. This is going to be very different from that because I'm not going to be using a lot of the same characters that I use for the analogs in that one. It'll make sense when we start getting into the video idea. But before we get into the video idea, please be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. That way you can be up to date with all the videos I have here on the channel. Also, hit the notification bell. That way you can be notified whenever a new video like this comes your way. So first, we got to start with Man of Steel, the movie that started the DCEU, but really started it in a retroactive sense because I don't believe when it was first made that was the idea that they wanted to do. They didn't want to do a DCEU from that movie, but it's in the past. That's what happened. So I wanted to think of a character that very much could encapsulate Superman and very much encapsulate a character that has his sort of popularity. And for Superman, I went with Spider-Man. And for the movie, I just called it the Webhead. And very much is going in that direction, similar to what I did with the Wallcrawler duology that I did for what if the Spider-Man movies were Batman. And so yeah, this is sort of a similar direction, but also different because I'm not using a lot of the major popular villains. Well, I'm using a popular villain, but you'll see when I get there. But anyway, the story is very much the origin story of Spider-Man, but for the first 10 minutes or so of the film, we're going to be focusing on his parents, who are very much spies for the CIA, and they're looking out for trying to find a former rogue CIA agent that turned against them and the CIA, and that person would be Sergei Kravinoff, aka Kraven the Hunter, who would be our main antagonist of the film. And Kraven would be the one that would kill his parents, and that would be the direction I would go with that. But also, we would have Kraven get arrested by the CIA, and same with his main henchwoman, Calypso. They would be arrested by the CIA, and they would be locked away for years. And we would come into the modern day where Spider-Man gets his powers, and he's going on this journey of trying to discover who he really is. That's when Sergei Kravinoff would be escaped from the CIA holding, and he and Calypso would escape. And Sergei's entire thing is, I want to kill off the entire Parker line. We would also get the with great power comes great responsibility stuff with Uncle Ben. He would die. He's very much the Jonathan Kent analog of this all. And Kraven is General Zod trying to find Peter and kill Peter, but very much also like, no, your father and I were pretty close, you know, back in the day. We were tight, we were like that. And we would just get the ultimate moment of Peter. They would get into the final fight, and Peter or Sergei would very much be like, no, the only way you can stop me is if you can kill me, because I'm gonna try to keep on attacking all the people you love, such as May Parker, Mary Jane, and Robbie and J. Jonah Jameson. Those would be characters in it as well. And Sergei is very adamant, like, I'm going to kill everyone in your life. The only way you can stop me is to kill me. And Peter kills him. And we have that big emotional screaming, like from the heart, like aha moment, similar to how it is in Man of Steel. And it would ultimately end with Peter working at the Daily Bugle and working as a photographer trying to get photos of Spider-Man with Mary Jane, who I would have it to where they're all in college instead of just starting them in high school. They're in college when all this is happening. They're college students that are working at the Daily Bugle, with Mary Jane being the only person that knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. And that's very much the Webhead movie. That's very much the Spider-Man movie. I don't really need to explain it a lot more, because if you've seen my Wallcrawler trilogy, again, the movies where I did what if instead of Batman it was Spider-Man and we did the Dark Knight trilogy, that's sort of very much the idea of that film. This film exactly. So I just wanted to put a little button on that. But then we move on to the next film that is inspired off of Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice. This is Daredevil vs Spider-Man Dawn of Nights. And I think you're getting an idea of the direction I'm going with this. I'm going more, instead of the grander scheme of things such as the Avengers, I'm going for more street-based heroes, having it sort of be the Marvel Knights characters. And again, this is sort of phase 1. I'm ending at where the Justice League film would be, so where the Marvel Knights film is going to be. But yeah, this is very much dealing with more street-level heroes, with Daredevil being a hero that had been around for a while, but then he stopped being around, and now he's coming back because Spider-Man, this super-powered superhero dealing with street crime, but he's not doing it the correct way, especially with his abilities. He could kill someone, and Matt Murdock, the lawyer, he's been practicing law, but not like how he has been before. Imagine the events of Guardian Devil. I think that's the one where Karen Page died. Imagine that happened, and he's still dealing with the guilt of Karen Page being dead, and that's sort of the direction that we're going with Matt Murdock's character. And one of the main antagonists of the film would be Norman Osborn. He would become Green Goblin at some point, but he's not like fully Green Goblin. He just has hints of it, and he's not even going Ultimate Spider-Man Green Goblin where he's this big hulking creature. It's just we see hints of the Green Goblin in it, but he's not wearing the suit. We just see it in his eyes, like, oh, there's something wrong with this dude, and he's going crazy. So he's very much serving the Lex Luthor role in the film. And we have Franklin Nelson, who's serving as the Alfred role. Foggy, he knows that Matt's Daredevil and is trying to get him to not drown himself in any sorrows. And very much it's the film of just Daredevil's not trusting Spider-Man, and so he's going to try to find a way to stop Spider-Man. And another character that we're seeing is Senator Charlotte Hastert, who is an actual senator from the comics. And she's very much like, well, Spider-Man's doing a little bit too evil things, or we can't trust Spider-Man because he is a character with these amazing powers, but who knows what he could do if he betrays us. And she's sort of looking at the J. Jonah Jameson line of thinking, and J. Jonah Jameson's not the villain. He's just one of the main people that's coming out and being like, we can't trust Spider-Man. And sort of think of this as a world that starts to listen to J. Jonah Jameson more so than in the comics, where people are like, but Spider-Man's still a good guy. Sure, J. Jonah has some points, but Spider-Man's still a good guy. So we're going in a more direction of just everyone starting to agree with J. Jonah Jameson. And one of the main antagonists of the film, who is sort of serving as like the KG Beast analog, is Melvin Potter, aka Gladiator, who is sort of the person that Norman Osborn has hired to do all these bad things. And Daredevil and Spider-Man are trying to stop him, and Daredevil is more of the person that has more of a physical fight with him, because both of them don't have powers, superhero powers, and it's a lot easier for Daredevil to fight Gladiator than it would be for Spider-Man to fight Gladiator, because if Spider-Man were to fight him and not hold back, Gladiator is done. But sort of the main threat, the doomsday threat of this, is a character known as Doppelganger, who is a clone of Spider-Man, who also has like 8 arms, I want to say, and is just a terrifying creature who has sharp teeth, and you'll see a picture of him on screen somewhere. But yeah, he's sort of the one that I'm looking at to be the Doomsday analog, the one that's wrecking havoc in New York. And also the Wonder Woman analog would be a character of Barbara Denton, aka Brunhilde, aka Valkyrie. Valkyrie is very much serving as my Wonder Woman analog, because I wanted that role to be fulfilled by a female character, and Valkyrie is someone that can serve as a Thor-esque character, but is also a female, so I just wanted it to be Valkyrie. And I also wanted to make sure that it was a character that was created by that time, instead of making it Jane Foster's Thor, because I don't know if Jane Foster's Thor was around in 2016. So that's why I went with Valkyrie instead. And it's very much Spider-Man, Valkyrie, and Daredevil at the end working together together to try to stop Doppelganger, and Spider-Man would ultimately die trying to defeat Doppelganger. And yeah, that would be how Daredevil versus Spider-Man would end. And it would also end with Daredevil sending a message to Norman Osborn, who would get arrested and put in jail, being like, hey, I'm watching you. But very much Norman Osborn also saying, no, there's someone bigger. There's the king coming to New York and is going to take over everything that is happening here, hinting at the dark side of this little thing, which would be Kingpin. I'm just telling you that now, because we're not going to get a Marvel Knights versus Kingpin movie, because we didn't get a Justice League versus Darkseid movie. But yeah, that's very much the idea that we're going with this direction, with these characters. There are other characters I have listed on here, but honestly, I can't remember what role they would fit. That one of them I do remember, but the others I'm like, well, I don't know what your real plot line would do. I'm just very much doing the generalized plot of Daredevil versus Spider-Man. They eventually have to come together and beat Norman Osborn, and that's sort of the direction for Daredevil versus Spider-Man Dawn of Nights. We would be hinting at the Marvel Knights. We would get hints at other characters who I'm not going to say who they are until we get to the Marvel Knights movie. But yeah, that's sort of what Daredevil versus Spider-Man Dawn of Nights would be, is them being at odds with each other, then coming together, and there would be a Daredevil versus Spider-Man fight scene, but we would show Daredevil in the 90s armor, because that's the only armor that could compare to the Dark Knight Returns armor. We would just have Daredevil in his 90s armor. But yeah, that's Daredevil versus Spider-Man Dawn of Nights. And now we move over to the Suicide Squad analog, which is Thunderbolts. I think it was very obvious. The members of the Thunderbolts team would be Baron Zemo, Elektra Nachios, because I wanted the Harley Quinn analog, and so Elektra made the most sense because she was tied to Daredevil, and she's one of those characters that can flip-flop between being a good guy and also doing some evil things. So yeah, that's why I chose Elektra. US Agent, Beetle, Screaming Mimi or Songbird, Moonstone, Grizzly, and Ogre. But also we would have the character of Paladin also serving as like the US Agent. US Agent is serving like the Rick Flag role of, oh, I'm working with the government to put this team together and make sure that this team is running on the straight and narrow. It's sort of funny looking at the team that I assembled. It's like, oh, here's classic Thunderbolts, and also Thunderbolts from the movie that's about to come out. Didn't plan on that, but when like putting together this team, I was just thinking, oh, there are some government people in it. I need people that could fit those roles from the Marvel Universe in the film, and I just thought that having someone like US Agent or Paladin, who we could easily make Paladin into a, oh, this character worked for the government, and have him be a part of the team. I just thought that was a nice little point in that, and it's very much they're assembling this team to stop the character of the Leader. The Leader is the main antagonist. He's sort of taking over one of the cities in the United States. He's turning it a lot of gamma radiation, turning them into like sort of their own versions of the Hulks, and it's up to the team of the Thunderbolts to go and stop him. And the Thunderbolts have been assembled by General Thunderbolt Ross, hence why they are called the Thunderbolt or Thunderbolts. And it's very much that team going on against the Leader, but also because the Joker was in Suicide Squad, we needed that little crazy Suicide Squad Joker energy, and that would be Purple Man. Purple Man would very much serve as a character that would sort of be on the outside, like, maybe I want to do my own thing, and I'm gonna try to stop the Suicide Squad and try to get into Elektra's head. And that's very much the direction of those two characters. Elektra trying to avoid Purple Man because of stuff for past, and then just the Thunderbolts trying to defeat the Leader. And characters that would die, because characters would die. The characters that would die would be Ogre, who would serve as the Slipknot character, in Moonstone, who is very much serving as the El Diablo character, a person that understands that she has done bad and is trying to repent for it all, being a part of this team, and she would ultimately die by sacrificing herself. And the characters that would survive, oh, Paladin would also die because the character that he is inspired by, GQ, who was played by Scott Eastwood in Suicide Squad, he would die too because his character died as well. So the surviving characters would be Songbird, Beetle, US Agent, Elektra, and Baron Zemo. Those are the characters that are surviving to save the day and beat the Leader. And the Leader would get arrested. He wouldn't get killed. He would just get arrested because the Enchantress didn't die, so that's why he's not dying. But yeah, that's very much the plot. The Suicide Squad analog, Thunderbolts. And now moving on to the Wonder Woman analog, which is Valkyrie, which would see just the origin story of Valkyrie before she becomes Barbara Denton. And the character of Steve Trevor, his analog would be Jack Norris, because in the comics, Barbara Denton was married to Jack Norris, who was was aka Nighthawk, and this movie would sort of be set in the 40s during the World War II era, and that's how we're sort of getting Valkyrie involved in the story, setting it in World War II. Some of the other characters that would be involved in it would be human characters, would be John Steele, Eric Simon Payne, and Dennis Dumphy, and Bernie Rosenthal, all human characters that would be a part of this team of members that would assemble in World War II era to fight the bad guys. And I'm purposely not putting Captain America in this film. This is very much trying to separate itself from Captain America. It's like if Captain America is doing this main mission against the Nazis and Hydra, this is a separate mission that does not involve Captain America or Wolverine. They're on their own mission, and it's mainly because there is someone from Asgard that has come to Earth that is wreaking havoc. And one of the people that Valkyrie believes it to be is Minerva Bannister. She is believing that, oh, Minerva Bannister is someone from Asgard that has attacked the Earth, and in Germany specifically, and she's trying her hardest to stop all the attack. When it's revealed it's not actually Minerva Bannister, the main antagonist of the film is actually Amora, aka Enchantress. So she's the main antagonist. She's the person that Valkyrie is trying to stop, but of course Enchantress has her right-hand man, which is the Executioner. And so that would be a fight scene between Valkyrie and Executioner, and then it would be another fight scene between Valkyrie and Enchantress. Ultimately, it would end with Enchantress and Executioner not being killed. Minerva Bannister would get killed, but Enchantress and Executioner would not be killed. They would actually be sent back to Asgard, and they would be trapped in Asgard forever, because I would have Thor in this film, but more of a Thor is busy doing this thing, and here's Thor trying to give guidance to Valkyrie, and now Valkyrie is able to stop Enchantress and Executioner, and Thor is able to take them back. But then we would cut to modern day where Valkyrie is still alive. She still has the picture of Jack Norris. In fact, when we catch her up in this one, she has taken the name of Barbara Norris, who is someone that Valkyrie lived in for a little bit as a human body. And yeah, that's sort of the direction that I was doing with Valkyrie, and that's the plot of the Valkyrie movie. And now we move on to the final film, the Justice League analog, which would be Marvel Knights. And the team would be Daredevil, who is the Batman analog, Spider-Man, who's the Superman analog, Valkyrie, who's the Wonder Woman analog, Iron Fist, who is the Flash analog, Black Panther, who is the Aquaman analog, and Luke Cage, who is the Cyborg analog, aka Luke Cage is not getting his own movie, even though we said he would. He is not getting his own movie. I'm sorry. And Iron Fist and Black Panther would get multiple movies. Or one movie for Iron Fist, two for Black Panther. We'll talk about it when we get there. But anyway, the main antagonist of the film would be Max Dillon, aka Electro. Electro would very much serve as the main antagonist of the film, being someone that got powers and is working under the Kingpin and trying his hardest to get New York ready for the Kingpin's takeover. Also, he would try his hardest to maybe get his own plans into motion, where he is the one that may actually be in charge of New York and not Kingpin. Ultimately, the heroes would discover that the Spider-Man that died wasn't actually Spider-Man. He was a clone, and then they go out and search, and they find that Mary Jane and Spider-Man have actually moved to Oregon, and they are living a normal life there. And Daredevil, it takes Daredevil and a lot of the team to be like, hey, we need you in New York because there's this guy named Electro and he's wreaking havoc, and the only way we can beat him is with you. And Spider-Man's like, maybe I'll consider it. And then when we get to the final fight, Spider-Man swings in and is like, hey, I'm here to help. And then they beat the bad guy. It's, you know, it's very hard sometimes to come up with plots, especially when it's like, okay, this version of the plot has to be the Joss Whedon version. And that was a very simplified version. But yeah, that would be the way that I would think Joss Whedon would do it, because the Zack Snyder version would be a little bit more, no, Spider-Man actually died and we gotta try to find a way to bring him back. And this one is like, no, it's clones. But yeah, that is how that story would go. We'd have Okoye and James Lucas involved with the Luke Cage and Black Panther story. Detective Brett Mahoney would sort of serve as the Gordon analog, and it's very much the team members coming together, like not really wanting to work together, a lot of them being very much loners, and coming together and stopping Electro with everything he is doing, and Spider-Man coming in and sort of being the beacon of light and hope that saves the day. and that is the Marvel Knight story, and that is phase 1 of what if the DCEU was the MEU. I know I'm not going in the traditional direction of, hey, we're making it the Avengers because Justice League. I very much wanted to go into a different direction because I wanted to use the street level heroes more, because I realized that I haven't really used a lot of Marvel street level heroes, and I really wanted to do that. And so yeah, that is why I'm going the direction of Marvel Knights instead of the Avengers. But what were your thoughts on the idea? Phase 2 and phase 3 will be coming out later on in the coming weeks. But yeah, this was just phase 1. What were your thoughts? If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments down below. Also, leave your thoughts in the comments down below. Did you like them? Did you hate them? Were you indifferent to them? Again, whatever your thoughts, comments down below, interactions. Also, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. That way you can be up to date with all the videos I have here on the channel. Also, hit the notification bell. That way you can be notified whenever a new video like this comes your way. But until then, I've been Mr. EliMac, you've been the audience, and I hope you all remember to have a great rest of the day.